Hello and welcome to another Scoutcast from fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. My name is Joe.
My name's David.
My name's Az.
And we were waiting for My Name is Luke, but unfortunately he's not here. And this is really sad because something went awry with his internet and we were all prepared. We were just about to start and he just kept cutting out like that and it was just proving impossible. Unless, of course, we could somehow decipher getting every other syllable off him. But which would have been okay, possibly.
Like a fun game.
Would have been a fun game to find out. But yeah, I just wanted to say sorry, Luke, and hopefully we can get you back next week. And internet world will be good. But meantime, David, what have we got coming up on the show apart from no Luke?
Not many of us actually really want to do this, but we're gonna look back on game week 10, sadly, at one of the weirdest game weeks I've seen in a long time, with rotation rife, high scores combined with red arrows. Very, very weird week, and we're going to dissect it and make ourselves very sad at all our red arrows. As has obviously got roughs with the smooth, plenty of those this week. We're going to look at two key players to consider for game week 11. We're going to look at a form team that many are hoping will get the better of their trickier fixtures. And as we said, rotation has been dominating what we've been looking back on. So our talking point this week is how do we process that into how we plan for game week 11 and beyond. And then we'll obviously finish with our usual features, including our best differentials. And we have got Luke's noted down, I think. So we'll make sure we include those, and our clean sheet tips as well.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that. So I'm going to go straight back to you because as we look back on a troublesome game week 10, you actually did the best out of us. So you got 68. What went right?
Top of the pile again, David.
Yeah, it's going. Yeah, I mean, I want to say it's going well, but I got a red arrow. I mean, it's a weird game week. I mean, 68 normally is if it's gonna, it's at least a minimal green arrow. In some cases a grey circle if you're lucky. But this week, red arrow. I've dropped I've dropped only 3,000 places, so it's not massive. But I've waved goodbye to 36,017th place, which is a shame because I thought I'd made it my own. But yeah, I mean, just starting from the top, Wolves' defence caving in again was a bit of a shame, and it was kind of more of the same because Wolves. Basically Brighton were lucky to get out of that with a 1-0 win. To be honest, in terms of the basis of the game, and Wolves probably should have kept a clean sheet. It was just the one shot on target that Brighton had, they scored from. So frustrating. I'm going to keep them. I'm going to keep
Doherty as well in that game. Like the highlight.
Oh yeah.
So many shots. His heat map is just ridiculous. It's just not even a winger.
He's playing up front.
A new Alonso, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. There was that moment when he went through and he was just. I mean, that's, to use an old adage, that's why he plays defence. I mean, it was a really poor shot. But as we would say, getting in those positions is nice. So excitingly, DeAndre Yedlin, my secret weapon, finally came in after weeks, and he's just been sat there. He's just been waiting, just like the Americans in World War II. My American has come in to sort of save the day in 1942 or whenever it was. Which is nice because obviously a little bit of stick from getting him in my wild card and has come through. The Alonso assist was nice because that gave me a nice little double figure haul. Fraser, I mean, I was kind of expecting some points, so I'm not sort of at the Fulham game. I don't want to say I'm happy because I'm kind of just sort of like satisfied. I mean, if Fraser had come out of that game against Fulham with nothing, I think I would have been quite angry. So I mean, that's nice for that to come through. And then Salah captain, that was nice. But I'm always a bit glass half empty. I feel like the Salah 15 points is great, but if Mane's going to get exactly the same, it's not quite the smoking gun that I'd hoped for. Because anyone who's got Mane and not Salah has got the same points, and a lot of them captained him. So, and then that forward line, I mean, just terrible. And then I had Hazard out, Højbjerg out, Robertson out, Arnautovic out. So basically, I had 10 men. So 68 points from 10 men. I mean, I can't be too unhappy with, but it's just a shame to get what I see as quite a lot of points and still get a red arrow. So on to next week.
I share your disappointment. So much so that I haven't even got a picture of my team up. Basically, when Luke's internet departed, my picture of my team went with it. Honest, I got 65, and I was already basically you've seen John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever, and you've seen him coming in his suit on the dance floor, making the moves, and that was me tonight. I had the costume ordered, and I was ready to come on in here and strut my stuff and say woo 65, and and then I looked at it, and I dropped 10,000 places and a massive red arrow. And the 65, I was thinking, what has gone wrong with FPL? 65 would be normally a fantastic score, but it's simply not good enough. Even though it was, up on the average and even up on the top 10k average. So it's something we were discussing this earlier. So basically, I captained Salah. And I have Fraser come in for me and Alonso, but pretty much not much else. And I think that's the main problem, because we talked about this earlier, and Mane and Salah, a lot of these kind of teams that did really well early on, and perhaps, for whatever reason, have just kind of left their team and not done much. I'm not saying they're fully ghost ship teams, but they're perhaps a little bit ghosty, a little bit haunty. And I'm hoping that they're like almost dead teams above me that have got Mane and Salah, but they probably aren't. I haven't seen too many Salah and Mane owners and live teams and kind of managers who kind of know what they're doing when you see their teams. But maybe there are, and there's a lot of.
Yeah, I've seen one or two in my mini leagues, and it's worked out. I mean, that's the captain. One of them is 45 points.
Yeah, I mean it's harsh. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. So. No John Travolta outfit for me, no disco dancing, and let's move on to Az's team, which we do have a picture of. Az, what did you get?
62 for me, and like looking at our teams, they're all pretty similar, aren't they? I've only got sort of 2 or 3 players different, so it's not really a surprise. We're all kind of centered around the same score. I mean, the problem for me was I just don't have any Bournemouth players, and you've both got Fraser. Wilson's been doing really well. Brooks has looked really good as well. Like, they've all been scoring points. I haven't had any of those points coming my way. I started the season with Salah and Mane. Ended up taking Mane out for Hazard, and that's now probably ended up costing me points, even though Hazard was billed as this kind of essential pick. Aguero's just getting 60 minutes. Mitrovic, his stats are just awful. It was quite a frustrating week, really. I mean, Arnautovic missing out was the real kicker, because I bought him in on my wild card thinking he was going to be quite a good differential for me over the last 3 games, and he's got 2 blanks, 2 yellow cards, and missed a game, despite the 2 games he's played looking really, really lively, even with this knee injury. So Richarlison moves up front, doesn't really do anything. It's just, I don't know, I'm just finding it all really, really frustrating at the moment. It's like every move I make is just problems with it, and I end up regretting switching 50-50 calls that I'm getting wrong that I would have got right last season. And I'm looking at my team now, and I need to get Mendy in somehow, and I'm just not entirely sure how to do it. So I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated at the moment, but
okay.
Onwards and upwards.
Well, I mean, good news for you. You didn't come bottom of the pile. That was Luke. You got 47. But I'm looking at, once again, no picture of Luke's team. It went in the internet ether, but his team's actually not too bad. He doesn't have Salah, and he didn't captain Salah. In fact, captained Aguero, so he got a massive captain blank when loads of people got Salah, which is why he got 47. But he got points returns from Mendy, David Luiz, Richarlison, Fraser, Sterling, as well. So he had a broad spread of points, and if he'd have had Salah as well, then that would have been a really good score there. So I guess that shows what happens when you don't have Salah, when he really goes to town on it, and if you don't have Mane as well to cover it. Because I have seen a few teams
very brave going into that without any
I know, and I was I noticed in the FPL Generals Elite 64 League, which is the toughest league ever, and but in amongst that is Jay Eggersdorf, and I noticed his team. He's Salahless, but he has Mane, and so he did really well this week. With a very similar team. Yeah, and Captain Mane. So that was I mean I said it at the beginning of the season when I interviewed Luke for his Rate My Team. I did think going Salahless would be okay as long as you had Mane. But if you have neither, then there's going to be some problems. But as we've got some more rough with the smooths here, so who have you got?
We do indeed. So we've got a couple of roughs here. So Red Arrows did worse than Luke, 31 points. He took a punt on De Bruyne, who got only a few minutes off the bench. Hazard didn't show, and he got Lacazette captain, who blanked. Had double Liverpool defence from the two Liverpool defenders who kind of actually played, Alisson and Alexander-Arnold, who both conceded to Cardiff, which no one really saw coming. And he dropped from 23,000 to 133. So that's
don't say that. That's horrible. That gives me fear. I didn't think that was possible.
No, that's a horrible drop. Mingo, he had 5 players that didn't show, so he ended up with 9 men. Arnautovic, Holebas, Hazard, Robertson, Højbjerg. No Salah. Somehow managed to score as many points as Luke. Oh no less than Luke, 42 for him, so not a good score. And Sea Dog, and I've seen a few of these. Hazard captain, Robertson vice captain. So no captain on show.
Yeah. I've seen that.
Double Wolves defence. My favourite part of this though is his top scorer in his whole team was Shane Duffy. So he went from 29,000 to 165k, which is it just hurts because all the hard work you've done all season, kind of undone in run week. Anyway, let's move on to some nice ones. So Smooth, little simple Smooth. The Hobbit, Balbuena, 9 points in for Arnautovic. Defender in for a striker. Defender scores. Was on for even more points before they conceded in the last minute as well. Lammy, this one's about patience, which I like. So he got 26 points last week. Said it was one of the worst weeks sort of he'd ever had. Same team, apart from a goalkeeper transfer, got 94 points this week. Mane captain, Alonso, Fraser, Wilson, Sterling, Isaac Success, who we might be touching on a bit later. But yeah, from 26 to 96. So it just shows that even if you do have a bad week, then you can bounce back.
Also shows that goalkeeper transfers are the way to go, right?
It does. So it's surprisingly.
Yeah, all the cool kids are doing it.
I think he got 4 points for that.
That's great success.
Great success. Isaac success. And last one, are you Dan Tompkins? He's boasting because he had Matt Ryan for all of his 3 consecutive clean sheets, like Andy does as well, which is great move. And he got Yedlin 6 and Brooks 8 off the bench for Hazard and Robbo. So good subs to come in. I got 3 points from mine, and he got 14. So good.
Okay, well let's forget that terrible game week that destroyed us and destroyed all these people. It was all their teams. It's terrible, really. But we're going to move on, and we're going to look ahead to game week 11 and beyond. And we're going to start off, as we always do, look at some of the community questions by looking at some of the key players and teams and talking point that the community were asking us about. And so, David, who is the player that everyone wants to talk about?
Yeah, well, obviously the player that everyone wants to talk about is the game week 10 top scorer, and that's Ross Barkley. He's had 36 points in his last 3 matches, and obviously that included that rather dramatic cameo against Man United. So yeah, we've got lots of questions on him. So General Zod and Chris is lost in FPL are among many to ask: is Barkley a viable option, especially for those looking to replace Fraser? And then Vobinho says, is Ross Barkley a trap? Can we double up with Hazard since Sarri talked him up very positively and now looks to be ahead of Kovacic? So we've actually been looking at this on the website today. So there is actually some data that we can kind of talk about already. And it does look as if Barkley is perhaps maybe not just a flash in the pan. And there's a lot of numbers to kind of back up that he's worth looking at. I mean, we've kind of compared him against a lot of people in the same price bracket. And obviously in those questions we've heard about Fraser. I think people are maybe looking to perhaps offload Maddison. I've heard people say there's a lot of people in that bracket that people are losing patience with, and he's comparing quite favourably with them for shots on target, passes received, minutes per chance, that sort of thing in the last couple of game weeks. So, I guess just the first question to both of you is, are you thinking about getting him in for those guys that you aren't so happy with in the mid-price range? Let's go with you first, Az.
No, I'm not, but I can see why people are. The point speaks for itself. I think the stats might be up, but I think he's only had 1 penalty area touch in the last game or something, which is always something that puts me off bringing in a player like that. But for 5.8, I'm looking at that Chelsea team and I'm thinking there aren't that many options then in there. You don't really want you don't want Druid or Morata. I hate Willian, so he's not coming in. You've got Hazard, obviously, is a standout, but then they've got Kante and Jorginho, and then I'm thinking, well, what does Kovacic really bring to the team when they've got that? I mean, I must admit, I haven't watched too much of Chelsea this season, but in the games I have seen, I haven't been that impressed with Kovacic, and it looks to me like Barkley does really give them, an extra bit of drive going forwards. And with the goals he scored recently and the form he's showing, I can't see why he wouldn't play when Kovacic haven't done particularly that much to kind of stay in the team. So yeah, I mean 5.8 million. I mean it's a really really cheap price for him. And like you say, Bournemouth's fixtures are turning. Maddison, the absolute tragedy that happens, at the weekend. We don't know how Leicester are gonna kind of cope with that kind of pressure that's going to be on them. Although the fixtures are really good, so there is definitely a case of I actually tipped Barkley in my scout squad selection last week, because when I was writing, I was thinking I didn't want a Chelsea player, but other than Hazard, he really was the kind of go-to kind of attacking player. So I can completely see why people are making the move. I think it could be a really good pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also worth thinking about, I guess, the fixtures that Chelsea have as well, because they do look particularly nice. Palace at home, Everton at home, Spurs away, which obviously is not amazing, but then after that it's Fulham at home, and we've kind of been talking a little bit about how people were left in the lurch, I suppose, by maybe only having one Liverpool attacker for a game against in a game where we think that they're gonna do particularly well. A game week 14 home against Fulham. That could be a game where having Hazard and Barkley could be perhaps really nice. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like with Az, I can see why people are getting him in. I probably won't, but he is a strong option. The last four, he's obviously done really well, but he's only had 2 starts and 2 sub appearances, but he's had returns in 3 of those 4. And he's also doing very well compared to other mids priced at kind of 6.5 and below. So, for example, looking at the list there. So, I mean, obviously we've got our friend from last week, Josh Murphy, top of the pile there last 4 game weeks with his 14 goal attempts there. And Barkley's a bit lower down with 8. But he's doing really well with baseline bonus, which is always good. He's getting a baseline bonus return. That's basically a bonus point in the bonus point system that goes towards the actual bonus allocation, and it's basically the things that aren't scoring or assisting or clean sheets. It's all the other stuff, the passing, the tackling, those types of things. So he's getting 1 of those points every 6 minutes, which is a really good return there. So he's got that going for him as well. His shots are kind of he's got a minutes per goal attempt in the box every 60 minutes, which is kind of, I guess, what you would expect from a midfielder who's kind of in the kind of 6 million. So he's having a really good spell at the moment, but he's basically performing as one of those players would do. And I can see, because he's plays for a popular team as well, he's a well-known player with the England squad over the years, young talent and all of that, and that's going to boost his price up because people recognise him and they're going to want to bring him in as well. But so I think he is a good option.
I feel like this year the template. I don't normally stick to the template, but this year I seem to be really reluctant to move off of it. And we've got players like Barkley coming out, like Martial now. We've got Aubameyang scoring goals. Who could be like an Aguero replacement. You've got Mane who could be outscoring Salah, and I feel like I'm not taking any of these like gifts that we've kind of been given, who are actually outscoring a lot of their kind of much pricier or kind of equivalent like counterparts, and it's frustrating because it's making me think, once I start doing that, then there's no kind of going back to the template, because I've got so much value tied up in them, with Maddison and Mitrovic and all these players. But if I want points, then I think I need to start being a bit braver and taking a bit of a punt on.
Well, he's a good example of something we're going to be talking about later, about rotation. And does it matter that players don't even start? Especially when they're doing so well as subs, these kind of super subs as well. I mean, undoubtedly, Ross Barkley's still got competition in midfield. Undoubtedly, he's not going to be starting every game because there is so much competition. There's so many good players there, and Sarri can chop and change depending on the opposition or the fitness of those around him. And so that's why I think Ross Barkley, yes, he is a good option, but it depends which way you look at it. So basically, the people who will look at him and go, wow, he's got lots of points, 5.8. I've perhaps got a Fraser or someone like that in my team, Maddison or someone I'm not happy with. He's an ideal replacement. And there's others who you mention it to, and what they'll do on Twitter, they'll find that image of Admiral Akbar saying it's a trap, and that's what they'll do. And they won't even say anything else. They'll just go, it's a trap. Here's a picture from Star Wars, and goodbye. That's their sole response to it, and I think that's oversimplifying it. It would be annoying for someone to get him in this weekend and then to see him on the bench. But is it that annoying when we've seen him and some of the other players we're going to mention a bit later do so well off the bench? So
well, you think with the City, like you've got so much rotation there, but yet people are willing to kind of just, take Mahrez and Sterling and even Aguero of his 60 minutes and kind of accept that they're going to have reduced minutes and that kind of thing. And they're what, like 10, 11 million price players. You think you've got a bit of a rotation risk for a 5.8 million midfielder who's like one of the most informed players in the Premier League, playing for a side who is still unbeaten. It almost seems too good to be true, doesn't it? And yet, I'm still not convinced by it. And I do think I think overcomplicated a bit.
Yeah, I think with the rotation angle, I think of course it's going to be there. But I think with Barkley, he's not one of these. If he doesn't start, he doesn't seem to have been one of these players who's coming off for cameos, because I think Sarri has often kind of swapped Kovacic and Barkley depending on who started and who hasn't around the hour mark or just before, and he seems to like to give that substitute a chunk of a game. And I mean, it will depend on who they're playing. I mean, just more of what's in the article is kind of this: the idea that Kovacic is seemingly more there for defensive reasons and Barkley's more there for offensive reasons. Because basically, Kovacic is better at recovering the ball and making successful tackles. And I'd kind of like to think that in a home match against Palace, home match against Everton, and home match against Fulham, which is 3 of their next 4, that he's probably going to be more interested in a guy who's got a bit of offensive to him, because it's not a game where having hold of the ball is going to necessarily be so important, because they've all got quite poor defences away from home. So I'd like to think he's going to put them out on the front foot. And we've got the advantage this week anyway, that they've got a midweek game against Derby. And Kovacic started the last midweek game. And so it was kind of, as you put him in the scout squad because it kind of looked like he was going to play. If we're going to maybe get him in for this little spell, at the very least, we can probably be sure one way or another if he's going to start against Palace, because we'll know what's happened on, I think it's Wednesday night. So, and you're right. I mean, exactly. I mean, he's 5.8. So, I mean, I guess, even if there is rotation, it's not, it's not the end of the world. I mean, that's the great thing about his price point. As you say, on with the template, it does sort of seem to be kind of coming to an end. I guess it just maybe depends on what value people have got tied up. So I mean, I've only got 0.1 in Maddison, so I'm not as bothered about getting rid as perhaps you will be. So some of it may come down to what everybody else is looking at. And one just last thing on Barkley, which I do think is interesting, is that he does seem to be showing the ability to have a multiple involvement. So I mean, we talked a little bit about his goal threat. He seems to be doing quite well compared to those other options. Interestingly, he's also doing quite well for chance creation as well. So Fraser and Maddison are comfortably top of that little list that we put together as selected options, and Barkley's in third, and he seems to have a really, really nice balance of both. So it's just one other thing that's worth mentioning, that creativity seems to be there as well. So
it's also with Ross Barkley.
I'm strongly considering him.
I mean, Ross Barkley's reduced minutes as well, because he's the big thing about him is will he start, won't he? But that's his issue when you're trying to compare him with others as well. And I would urge some of those who've got who are members with Fantasy Football Scout to look at some of the things like minutes per things. Because
that's how we've done the story.
Yeah, and that's exactly that. Or basically, don't even do that. Just read your article. Just get someone to do the job for them. But
this is just a 20-minute advert for the article on the site.
But that is the way to look at it, because if you were to look at his chances and go, well, that's quite far behind some of the others, but then again, it has had reduced minutes. But that's the thing with him as well. There's another player I wanted to discuss as well, and he's a player I never thought we would ever discuss on this. I mean, I thought Josh Murphy really pulled out all the stops last week, but this guy here he is, Isaac Success. He's loads of people.
Ajayi, I think we should.
Isaac. Let's just call him. I mean, let's just call him Success, because he's been successful this week. So he's got on the score sheet as well. So he's got some points. He's only 4.5. But we've had lots of people asking about him as well, because it's not just that he got a goal, it's that he's actually playing and he's starting. And he's 4.5. So suddenly people are starting to think about their formations. And because you said the template seems to be not coming to an end, but it's definitely in a flux at the moment.
Shifting, isn't it?
So yes, Tizza asks, is it time to park a 4.5 striker on the bench and use funds to upgrade a good second striker or elsewhere? There seems to be lots of value in the 5 to 7 million bracket in defence and midfield. And is the Watford man the key to abandoning 3-4-3 and going for 3-5-2? Or indeed 4-4-2. And then Karam T. Abusham, he points out Jimenez and Ings are not the best options at the moment. As an Ings owner, I agree. Should we downgrade to the likes of Success and free up funds? So what think you, Az? What do you think? Is it time for Success?
I mean, I really like him. I can't quite believe it. I mean, I was reading an article today about him because I got him. I don't know much about him. I know they paid quite a lot of money for him.
He's been there a few years, hasn't he?
Yeah, been there a few years and he never really got a chance. But apparently he's had a bit of he scored a bucket load of goals in the under-17 Nigeria team, and so he was being sort of coveted by quite a few big clubs. Ended up moving to because he's only 22. So he's still really young, but apparently his attitude has just been a bit off. And I think last season he was like quite overweight, and wasn't turning up to training on time, and I think he was getting fined and things like that. And then I think he had a chat with the manager, before the season started, and the manager said you'd to put your ideas up, and he hired a personal trainer. He was he's the first one in training now. He's really kind of improved his whole sort of image around the training ground, and he's really kind of forced himself back into sort of first team consideration. And you're looking. I mean, they've had two good wins now in the last couple of games. They're absolutely brilliant in the last match, and he scored. I mean, what more can he do? You've got Deeney, who's I think still got a bit of an injury thing around him, and there's no reason to kind of rush him back with Success, in form. And I mean, it's 4.5 million. I mean, it's literally the 4.5 million forward that we've always dreamed of. One of the days of Colin Quainer and, Kamara. We've now got someone who actually looks like they could get a run of games in the team. And I mean, he's coming off the bench as well. Even before he was starting, he was still coming off the bench. And you've got a player who's going to at least play some minutes for 4.5. You're going to bench, and I think that's pretty decent. So I could use the funds from doing Mitrovic to Success to bring in Mendy, which is really appealing to me because I really want Mendy. I don't really want Mitrovic anymore. And I could even play Success. He's got a good game next against Newcastle, and then he's got Southampton, I think. So 2 good games. Should keep his place for those 2, and then you can kind of assess after that. I really like him. Okay, 4 chances created in the last 2 games. Doesn't ever touch the ball in the penalty area. He drops quite deep. He's kind of more of a kind of link-up play, sort of chance creator, more than a kind of out-and-out goal scorer, I think. But yeah, I like him.
And David, you looking to be successful or unsuccessful?
I think, I mean, we were talking just before he came on. It sounds like me and Az have been thinking pretty much almost exactly the same. I'm looking at Mitrovic and thinking I don't want him. I need to get Mendy back, and I can probably, with my 2 free transfers and my 0.4, 3 or 4 in the bank, I can do Mitrovic to Success, and I can do Yedlin to Mendy, which just feels like a bit of a no-brainer, to be honest. And that's no hit as well. So yeah, I'm strongly considering him. I think, yeah, as mentioned there, the form that the team is in, they obviously had that 4-0 defeat to Bournemouth. I think that largely Watford have been unchanged up to that point. They've been playing 4-4-2. They then changed to this 4-2-3-1. Success kind of not really leading the line. It's interesting. I mean, De La Feu's kind of been playing up front, kind of. He seems to be the most advanced player. So I've actually been looking at him as well. But of course, he doesn't offer quite the same as what Success does. So yeah, and those 2, I mean, it's the price is the key. I mean, those fixtures are great. Then it's Liverpool at home, so I'll bench him. And I'm gonna have 4 defenders that I really like because I'm gonna have the old guard back. I'm gonna have Robertson, Mendy, Alonso, but I've also got Doherty still as well. And there's going to be times when I'm going to want to start him. There's going to be times when I'm going to want to play a back 4. So game week 13 home against Liverpool, I'll just bench him. So it does look pretty good. I mean, the only thing worth saying is that now that they are playing 4-2-3-1, they're not playing 4-4-2 anymore. So Gracia is not going to need 2 strikers. So in one sense, it kind of hampers him a little bit because he's only able to compete for one space rather than two. And obviously, Andre Gray could come back, Deeney could come back. So that worries me a little bit, I guess. But again, 4-5, it's not hugely distressing if he's not going to start. So yeah, I'm very much considering him this week.
Yeah, I mean, I like these questions on him because of what he offers, and he offers a change really. And I remember, I remember, I've completely forgotten his name now. The Sunderland guy, who was the 4.5 striker, and suddenly he emerged as he was playing, and suddenly
Anichebe.
Yeah, Anichebe, and everyone went,
Tweet something like this.
And then suddenly they were upgrading.
Mark had him, didn't he?
Mark
did really well.
I think Mark was going on the edge of the top 100 that season with him, and that proves that it's a viable tactics, because there are so many defenders I want, there's so many midfielders I want, and there's just no strikers I want apart from Arnautovic and Aguero. I can't think of a third one. I mean, I guess someone like Wilson, but the fixtures aren't great. It's not someone I would particularly bring in. So it's quite a nice opportunity. With me this week, I don't think it's for me this week because I'm kind of playing catch up with everyone. I've made transfers. I did the Kane hokey cokey. That was a big blunder.
Blame Kane.
And that's I'm going to blame Kane. And that set me back. So I'm not in that nice position where I can do that. But I definitely am considering it over the next week or two. Do something like Danny Ings, who I've still got. I mean, if I'm going to have a rubbish player, I might as well play 4.5 and 5.5. And the thing is, Success isn't even a rubbish player, so I'm going to get a better player and save $1 million, and then I can plough that into Mitrovic becoming Arnautovic. That move looks good to me, and then maybe a week after I can look to see, okay, have I got anything spare? Can I upgrade my midfielder? Can I upgrade perhaps another defender and maybe go 4 at the back? And there's so many good defenders I want. So yeah, I'm considering it. Possibly not for me this week. I think it would involve hits. So my success would not turn into success if I get lots of hits for him. But I was looking at his play.
How many of those jokes we can make?
Well, that's it. I mean, I've run out. I mean, to be honest, I ran out as soon as I started, but I've been milking it a bit. But I was looking at how often he plays, and really, so obviously he's played significant minutes in the last 2 matches, not so much, but he has actually played every match. You're gonna get 1 point for him. In fact, he's got at least 1 point. I say 1 point, but this is the kind of week where just getting that extra point on the bench rather than a 0. Can be handy, but he could even get returns in that. So yeah, I think people who are getting him in, if you've got no other things to do and you want to change formation, I think that's a really good plan.
It's rare for a 4.5 striker to be getting any minutes.
Yeah.
Any minutes at all. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are reluctant to go 5 in midfield, because you're literally sacrificing a player in your squad who you don't think is going to get any minutes.
I mean, literally, he's played every match, but I will admit, 2 of those he literally played 1 minute, and 1 was 2 minutes. But the rest were things like 35 minutes, 16 minutes, 10 minutes. These are not great figures in terms of minutes at all.
Someone on the chat just said it's been 2 years since he scored a goal before.
There we go.
Last weekend.
I do, yeah. I don't know. It's as I said, there's something about him. It's the name, the picture we've got on our screen of him smiling away. He looks like a nice bloke. He's obviously got over his pie-eating escapades of last season. So this is.
I mean, it's the change with the. I think the change with what Gracia's done in the last couple of weeks, I think is just worth looking at, because they were rubbish, absolutely terrible in that 4-0 defeat to Bournemouth, and they went into the international break. They changed like pretty much everything. The way the whole team is set up is completely different now with De La Feu coming back in. So the fact that he's been a key part of them turning around, because that was a coupon buster. Them going and beating Wolves, that was a really good result, because Wolves are in great form. They everybody backed them to do well in that fixture, and Watford just completely busted the coupon.
Away from home as well.
Yeah, exactly. They've gone away from home after getting stashed 4-0 at home from Bournemouth. I think there's a lot of credit in the bank with Success for being I hate to say it, a successful part of it. So yeah, I think he's going to keep getting minutes. I really do.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to a team. Now, this is, a lot of people are hoping, will be the ultimate form over fixture, because they're in great form and they got some tricky fixtures coming up. Who are the team we're talking about?
The team we're talking about are Bournemouth, who have been incredible at the start of the season. They've offered so many players like of amazing value, none of which I've got on board on. And so, yeah, I'll talk about Bournemouth in a minute. They don't. I don't do well with them. Anyway, Arbox, he says, are Bournemouth players like Fraser and Wilson holds for the foreseeable future, regardless of the tough fixtures? With counter-attacks key to their play, do you think they'll still do well against the top teams? And Tizzer as well says, can form trump fixtures for Bournemouth? So I don't know if you've got the fixture ticker up, Joe.
I have indeed. There's lots of red on it at the moment.
Lots of red, but I mean, I was looking at them, and actually, I think from an attacking, I mean, you're not going to consider a Bournemouth defender anyway. Really, I know they've had a couple of clean sheets in the last few games, but really, you want if you're going to be getting a Bournemouth player, you're going to be getting them in their attacking options. United, hey, they'll score in that game. Newcastle, they'll score in that game. Arsenal, they'll probably score in that game. City, okay, they won't in that one. Huddersfield at home, they'll score in that game. You know, that's still quite a good run for the next 5 matches. I don't think it's anything to worry. I definitely wouldn't be selling any players if I had them. I'm looking at bringing some of them in. You know, I'm looking at someone like Brooks, 5.1 million, scored 3 goals in 4 games. Looking at Fraser, who's still under 6 million. Wilson looks a brilliant, second, third striker. What was he, like 6 million? Was he 6.5, something like that? That's crazy value for those players with the points they've scored already this season. I was going to say on Bournemouth though, I have no luck with Bournemouth in my ever since they got promoted. I missed their hauls. I missed all of King's points when he was a midfielder playing up front. Didn't get him in for any. No, I bought him in for the last game week 38, and he got a yellow card and 1 point.
You never been to?
Every time I owned him all season.
You never been to a Charlie Daniels party? They're the best.
Charlie Daniels never. I had him. I started with him last season. I sold him before City, and then he scored that rocket.
Oh, that was incredible. Goal.
Yeah. I got in Wilson as well halfway through last season. You know, when he just blanked for like 6 games in a row, like the easiest.
Did me over as well. After that hat trick against Huddersfield, right? Yeah, I got him after that. Did nothing.
I cannot catch. The only good fortune I've ever had with Bournemouth was when I got in Stanislas for that blank game week last year, and I think he got like 13 points or something. I love Stanislas, and actually Stanislas is what puts me a bit off Brooks, because I think Stanislas is brilliant. I think he scored again tonight in the cup. He's such a talented player, and Brooks's minutes are being managed quite well by Hal. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen there. So I think it might be a bit of a wait and see on Brooks, but still 3 goals in 4 games he's a young guy as well. So that's my opinion on Bournemouth. I do whatever I don't do with them for a start. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't be selling any of the players that I had if I had any Bournemouth players. What about you, Joe?
Well, for me, I've got Fraser. So it's not a question of will I get any Bournemouth players in. Looking at those fixtures, they're too mixed really for me to get a player in. But it's a question of do I keep Fraser through that? And of course, we go back to Ross Barkley here. So these are the kind of players I've got to be comparing Fraser with. So, brace yourself for a heat map picture. It's one of these big lung ones again. One lung's looking quite nice. That's Fraser's one. Just nice pictorially. It's kind of small, but Barkley's one, he's all over the shop, so there's lots of red blotches there. It looks quite medical. But basically what that says in nice easy terms is that over the last 3 fixtures, Barkley has been the far better option than Fraser, and that comes despite Barkley having only 2 starts and Fraser playing significantly more minutes. So they match each other for chances created. So that goes back to what David was saying there. So that says to me that Barkley could be the better option there for Fraser, and he's got better fixtures. Crossing is where Fraser trumps Barkley. You would imagine that looking at the heat map with his position there, you would expect that as well. He's had 5 successful crosses over the last 3, which isn't great, but none for Barkley. So Barkley's not your crossing man. Goal threat though, Barkley 8 attempts over those 3 in the box. Just 1 from Fraser, and it was long range, so that's rubbish. So he's not static. This is terrible. He's not comparing well to Barkley. Barkley's good for bonus, we heard, but Fraser's actually marginally better for baseline bonus, so he's stacking up well there. So in short, I do think that Barkley is the better option in terms of form and fixtures and potential points returns, even if he gets limited minutes as he comes in with 30 minutes to go. But Fraser's creativity in general I don't think can be ignored, And I also don't think the fixtures are too bad. I think they've got... So I'm going... One of my Meet the Manager interviews recently was with Adam, who we had on the breakfast show as well. And one of his strategies is to look... He doesn't really look at next 4 in fixtures. He looks at next 6 to 8. And he swayed me to doing that much more as well. After my Kane move, my short-term move, I'm less about the short-term. I'm more about that longer-term, because I don't really want to be making moves and making those transfers, planning them in 3 or 4 weeks' time. And looking over those fixtures, I don't think they're too bad in the medium term. So you've got Newcastle, Huddersfield, Wolves and Brighton in the next 8. So there's 4 quite good fixtures there. Is Manchester United defence a bad fixture for Fraser? Arguably not. He could get returns there. City and Liverpool
They will
obviously
definitely score in that game.
Yeah,
There's
I mean
no
that's what
way
you would think. So
they're
I will
not-
be playing Fraser this week. So for me, in terms of Bournemouth assets, I think if you got them, hold them. I think the fixtures, don't be put off by the red. There's some okay fixtures there over the next 8, and I think they're a hold, and you've got to hope with their form as well. But if you haven't got their options, I'm not sure I would bring them in. I just don't think they tick enough boxes for a player to bring in, because there are other options. So, for example, Arnautovic instead of Wilson, I think is a better option. And I think, not necessarily Barkley, but I just think there could be other options there. Perhaps a better defence instead of Fraser. And of course, I'm not too interested with those fixtures in a Bournemouth defence. But yeah, that's my take on it. Yeah. What about you, David?
Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely agree. Don't sign any of them right now. That's something that we can all agree on. I think we can all agree they're going to score in those games, but I guess it just comes down to who's it going to be, and I'm sort of erring towards the side of maybe selling Fraser, just because he hasn't really compared that well. I mean, if I'm going to have a Bournemouth option, I think it's either Wilson or probably Brooks, because Brooks, as we've sort of been talking about, has outperformed Fraser for a much cheaper price. Wilson, I think we can all agree is the main man. So Wilson, I think, definitely keep him, because he touches the ball so much in the penalty area. He's got 5 shots on target last 4, 10 shots, all of them in the box, and 6 chances created as well. A really weird thing with Wilson is he seems to be really good at assisting at home and scoring away, which just seems a bit odd. But either way, he's consistently returning regardless of the venue. Fraser, on the other hand, I mean, the 4-0 win away at Watford, that's the kind of game where you kind of hope for more than just 6 points, to be honest, if it's a 4-0 win. Obviously, he got these 11 points against Fulham, but I don't read too much into that, because we knew that Fulham are rubbish down his flank. So he's not going to be playing against Timothy Fosu-Mensah every week. So the way I look at it is, the way I see it is, I think they will score against Man United, but do I think Fraser will be involved? Looking at his data, I'm not so sure. I mean, his chances created is interesting enough, but it's just he's hardly in the penalty box. He's had 1 shot on target. I don't know. I'm not confident he is because there's always this debate about attacking coverage. Is that a myth? And I think that there's there's a lot of truth to the idea that just having someone, an attacker from a team in a match you think they might score in, I don't think that's necessarily enough. And I guess I'm looking at it with a view of I've got 2 free transfers, which I don't think you guys perhaps are. So I've got the potential luxury to make 3 changes if I want. And looking at Barkley, I really do like what he's done, because while I think Bournemouth will score in those games, I'm more confident of Barkley being involved in goals against Palace, Everton, Fulham. Barkley just seems to be the more complete sort of package for the next 6 weeks than Fraser on an individual level, rather than just looking at Bournemouth as a team. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there'll be people who disagree, but I think there will be people out there who...
It's a tough call. I think if you've got a transfer to kind of use, then maybe, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that kind of 50-50 call go either way. I mean, they're both in form, both up against defences who are struggling. I don't know. I don't think I'd do it if I had Fraser. I think I'd hold on to him for now, but I can see why you'd think about it.
I was more inclined towards moving Maddison on, because I personally thought that Leicester's game was going to get called off. If I'm honest, I thought that they might perhaps maybe want to have their next match after those awful events as a home one, as sort of to kind of do it as a sort of a big sort of tribute to the owner. But it's fine that they're going to play the Cardiff game. But when I thought that that wasn't going to happen, it kind of made me think, well, maybe I can get away with moving on Maddison and use a bit of extra cash. But now that's on, I'm kind of now leaning towards more getting rid of Fraser. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure there'll be people out there who've kind of been factoring that kind of whole Leicester situation into what they do with Maddison, etc. So yeah, there's a lot of people want to move on. There's 50-50 calls all over the place, could go either way, and we'll just have to see, I guess.
Okay, well let's move on to the talking point, which kind of wraps up some of the things that we've already been speaking about, particularly the events of Game Week 10 in terms of players just not turning up, big players, big well-owned players like Hazard and Robertson and Arnautovic, but also players like Barkley, who are just seen as rotation risks. So, I think Robertson was the one that really shocked a lot of managers. I know it was something you put up on site as soon as that news came. The article,
my blood ran cold.
Yeah. The headline screamed at a shock for fantasy managers as Robertson benched for Liverpool. Couldn't believe the sensation of that headline. But it was, but it was a shock. It was a particular shock for me because I got Robertson in for Trippier.
Yeah.
And so I thought, great, brilliant. That was a good move. And also, I completely forgot that Liverpool's team sheet comes out 1 minute before the deadline. So
of course, they put it on their website before.
And I forgot about that. And I had 10 minutes before deadline. I did that move 10 minutes before deadline, quarter of an hour before deadline. And I think if I'd have waited a bit, I think Andy, a former Scoutcast colleague, I believe he was quite savvy there. So that's a lesson learned there. But I'm happy to have Robertson. I think he's had his rest there. So yeah, we've got a number of questions there about that. So Fitzy asks, should game weeks like this make us rethink the weak bench strategy that has been popular among many of the top managers featured in the Meet the Manager videos? This is indeed true. I can't remember a game week like Game Week 10, he says, where most have had to go deep into our benches. Not even over Christmas or New Year. This is really sensational stuff from Fitzy here. Demel asks, are Martial, now there's another name we have mentioned before, Barkley, these so-called rotation risk players, are they a trap like Admiral Akbar tells us on Twitter? Or does it matter that they are rotation risk given their form? So yeah, David, let's go back to you on this one. What's your view, not only on the whole bench strategy and coping with rotation, but also getting in these players who may not start? Does it even matter if they're so good?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, firstly on Robertson, just as I think, you're right. I think he'll be fine. I think he's going to start most of the games. I mean, obviously I'm considering Barkley, so it's not cut and dry yet, and I think a lot of it will depend on what I see in the cup game. I think we have to use those as much as we can in these situations because they can tell us a lot. I mean, obviously you can't tell who's going to play next 2 weeks worth of cup games, so they can be helpful. And I guess if we're looking at rotation risk, I mean, I guess it kind of goes without saying that it's better off someone 5'8". I mean, I'd be happier getting Barkley in than I would Martial because I'm spending less money. But also, I actually think that I'm kind of waiting for Martial to dry up because he seems to just be scoring with every shot he has, and he isn't having very many. So I'm not looking at him. And yeah, it's annoying because we always when we come up to Christmas, we want to talk about making sure you've got a playing bench. Because obviously, I've had 10 men this week. A lot of other people have had 10. Some people have had 9, as we've heard in Russ with a Smooth. It's annoying to feel like we need to start prepping for that now because I'd rather that we were prepping for it in a couple of weeks' time. But I mean, some of it's unlucky though. I mean, Arnautovic is an illness that we didn't know about until after the deadline. So, in a way, you can't really legislate for that. Robertson, as the headline says, was a shock, and I don't think that will happen too many more times. Hazard obviously hasn't played because of this little niggle that he's got, but we think that maybe he's going to be fine. So I think that this particular game week it's not. Yeah, I feel like it was a little bit kind of. It came out of nowhere. It wasn't. Most of the no-shows, they weren't really anything that they weren't largely ones that people go, oh, I made a mistake there. So I mean, I don't think that we need to be tearing up our benches anytime soon, or spending several transfers on making it look any good. But I mean, obviously we need to start thinking about Christmas. But I don't think the rotation is rife now. I think we just had a bit of an off game week. One strategy I actually was thinking about when I was on my wildcard game week 5 or 6, and I've seen it mentioned since on Twitter by I think the FPL editor, is if you've got Robertson and you're a little bit worried about him, and you've got a transfer that you can use, or you've got some little bit of a budget space on your bench, maybe get Moreno in for 4-2, because then you're basically just guaranteed a starting Liverpool defender every week. Because
that is stupid.
but I mean, largely, I was thinking about it for Christmas.
What about if you need a player like you had this week, and then you just don't have a player on your bench? Because
I'm not saying I didn't do it on my wild card because I thought that, but perhaps over Christmas it's worth thinking about. I don't know. I mean, you can't do it for everybody, because some people do it for goalkeepers, don't they? I've seen people.
Should we get Emerson in for when Alonso misses out? Should we get Delphin for when Mendy misses out? That's stupid.
But I mean, it's only just because in response to the fact that he hasn't played this particular match, and we expect him to not play every game over Christmas. So I do, for Christmas, I think it's more worth thinking about than it is now. But yeah, I do see what you're saying, rather than 15. But it's been done with goalkeepers, so I can see where the logic's come from. Some people will get both goalies from the same club. One of them's 4 million, and the other one's.
Yeah, I normally do that. I did that with Pickford at the start of the season. I don't really like rotating. I've got Fabianski and Hamer at the moment, so I haven't even got that luxury of falling back on the backup goalkeeper. Yeah. But
yeah, it sometimes works. I don't know. I mean, you can't do it for everybody, because if you definitely can't do it for Man City, for example. You can't just have, I don't know, Bernardo Silva on your bench just in case. I mean, it's not going to work. So it's maybe on a case by case basis.
Okay, what do you think, apart from obviously not being keen on Moreno as a Robertson backup, but what's your thinking about not only the whole bench strategy and how we cope with weeks like this, but also getting players in that may not start? Does it matter?
Well, I think it's a bit of a strange question to say, should we have a strong bench? Because obviously you'd like a strong bench, but there's plenty of players at a decent price. You don't have to pay 5-6 million to have a strong bench. Like, you've got the Brighton defenders at the moment, Dunk, Duffy, 4.5, 4.4, whatever they were. You've got the Watford defender. You still got Bennett at 4.1 or something. He's still cheap. Wan-Bissaka's like 4.2. These players are still decent players, playing regularly. They've scored points in previous. I mean, Bennett nearly scored against Brighton. Only some miraculous save from Ryan kept him from getting a 7 or 8 point haul. I think his owners would be feeling quite unlucky about that. So I don't think you need to panic. I think as long as you've got, you can spend 4.5 on your 3 bench players. There's plenty of options, especially now with success at 4.5 as well to consider. And all you need is a player who'll play. He'll get you 90 minutes. And if you can find a bargain of someone like, I think Duffy and Dunk are brilliant value. And you're looking at Robertson. If you're looking at having Robertson, Mendy, and Alonso, you need to have two cheap defenders to go along with them. So having Duffy and Doherty, that seems to me like the best defense you could probably have at the moment. And then you've got 2 defenders who you don't really mind benching because they're both under 5 million. So I don't think you need to spend loads of money, boosting your bench. I think you've got plenty of options at decent prices.
Okay. I mean, I look at it, I just think, go back for a point David made about this week, it doesn't come around too often. You're not going to get Arnautovic, Hazard, Robertson, etc., all benched in the same week. And there were a few people with Holebas as well. People have been caught out by Holebas because he's basically been kind of lost his place in the team, really. But that's kind of come on a bit, over the last week or two. So you've got players like that as well. So all of these things going on. So obviously those with a strong bench are going to do better in weeks like this. But I don't think these weeks are going to come around too often. So basically you're having quite an expensive bench, preparing for a week that will come around once every 3 months perhaps. So it doesn't make sense, I think, to scrimp on the first 11. So I'm still backing all the Meet the Managers. Virtually all of them so far. The thing they've had in common is their benches are absolutely awful. But their first 11's lovely. And that's why they're top managers. And I think that's a good tactic. So for me, I'm tempted by the likes of Success, 4.5 striker that actually gets minutes. I like that. I've got Danny Ings at the moment, so I'm wasting $1 million, I feel, on a player that I'm going to want to bench most weeks. So yeah, I'll go back to the meet the manager strategy
He
again.
seemed so good at the start of the season, didn't
I know.
he? He seemed like such a good price.
To be honest, he
so
doesn't
bad.
seem too awful. But there was something that I saw, and I'm going to have to go back to him. But it was Trigger Lips, one of the meet the managers. He was on Twitter last week, or 2 weeks ago, and he went, "Oh great!" He saw the team sheet for Southampton, and he went, "Austin and Ings up front. That's no goals then." And it's exactly right. And I just saw it and was out. But I meant to ask, so I'll have to do that this week. So what does he mean by that? Because whatever he means, it's accurate. So basically, if Ings and Austin are playing up front, there's something about that team. I need to find out. If Southampton fans want to tweet me and explain more about what it is about those two that means that these two strikers are just simply not delivering. Be good to know. But anyway, go back to Robertson. I think he's going to play most games. There's no way I'm getting Moreno in to occupy one of my precious places for like once every 3 months. He's going to come on, and as soon as I see his name on the team sheet, I know I'm not getting a clean sheet anyway, which is exactly what I said.
He was quite good against.
He wasn't too bad. He actually created the same number of chances in that game as Salah. So
Yet
Cardiff's goal.
Yet
Cardiff's
notably,
goal was on Liverpool's left flank.
Yeah.
So
Of course it was.
Yet notably, Cardiff scored. I got Robertson in. I've still got Terence Trent, Derby, Alexander-Arnold, Jones. I've still got him and all his names.
Peters, don't forget Peters.
And I was annoyed that Robertson wasn't starting, but I wasn't, going woohoo. At least I've still got Terence Trent, Alexander-Arnold, etc. Because Moreno equals no clean sheets, and so it's transpired. But what I do think is that you should have this, a playing bench, but don't spend so much on it. But what I find much more interesting is these players that are rotation risks, and I think this is something we have to get used to. I think this is a change. I think that old thing, get nailed on players, I think that's changing. And the reason why is I look at recent form as well. So looking at form on the FPL side, which I believe is the last 30 days, Martial is top. He's averaging 12.3 points a game. And he's only played, out of that time, he's only played more than 60 minutes 4 times. Barkley, 9.3 points a game, only played more than 60 minutes 3 times. So these are the top 4 midfielders who's got loads and loads of points that I've completely missed out on, because I'm thinking of the tried and tested, always get nailed on players. So I'm missing out. So top forward, Aubameyang, 9.3 points a match over the last 30 days. So twice in the last 4 he's not even started, and only 6 times this season. He's only twice has he lasted 90 minutes as well. So even when he starts, he gets subbed off as well. But all those points missed out on. Aguero. So people could talk about Aguero.
I was going to say Aguero. Yeah.
But okay, away Aguero is not an option. I mean, he's almost benchable. I think Red Lightning in our Moderators and Contributors League benched him this week. He's seen it.
He got him in. He came in though, didn't he? Because everybody had so many.
Yeah, he came in the end, but he benched Aguero, and that may look foolish, but away he just can't do it. But at home, he's a legend. So he's got 47 points over his home matches, and he's 9.4 he's averaging as well. And people say, but he got 20 points in one of them. But yeah, he got 20 points in one of them. That's what he does. Every now and again, he gets 20 points at home, and that's why you get him in, and that's why you captain him if he's at home, if there's no better options. So for me, it's these players I'm interested in, and it was something I looked at when I got Trippier in. I saw a few people saying about Trippier going, but he's not nailed on. Well, he is actually nailed on, but even if he isn't, does it really matter? I mean, while he was in my team for 4 weeks, he was averaging 7 points. So he's getting 7 points, and he costs 6 million. So I think that's a fabulous return. And I think this is a thing. I think this is a trend this season.
Well, Brooks as well. I mean, Brooks at 5.1. He's getting subbed pretty early, but he just keeps scoring.
Yeah. How many people have missed out on Mahrez's points in the last few weeks? Yeah. He's been the 4 midfielder.
3 double-figure hauls in the last 5.
Yeah, he's going to be. He's shooting up there. He's going to be challenging Martial for the top form over a 30-day period. Because he's not nailed on. They're not getting. How many people have missed out on Bernardo Silva's points as well? How many people are not getting Willian as well? I know as you won't
Yeah,
because you hate him, but
you gonna get Willian? Yeah.
but if you put aside your irrational hatred for him, these are the types of players who are getting returns. I remember I got Pedro in, and so he came on a sub and scored. There we go. I don't know. It's a thing. It's a thing. I haven't seen it discussed too much. I think people are scared about it, but I don't have a problem with it. I think Martial, though, might be a bridge too far, but that's mainly because of Mourinho and at the drop of a hat, drop of a whatever, an earring.
Drop of a rejected contract offer.
Yeah, I don't know why Mourinho would wear earrings, but something lighter than a hat even. Drop of a contract offer. And I just think he could go, but that's through no fault of his or his form or what he's doing on the pitch. It's just to do with the way it is under Mourinho. So that's my thoughts there.
I do actually. I see where you're coming from, and I think, there's loads of options who are doing that. But I guess I just think if you are going to get these guys, then we don't want to spend loads of money on our bench, but we perhaps just need to ensure that the people who are on our bench are actually playing players, which actually I think largely they are. You know, we've all sort of got Wan-Bissaka who's always going to play. I think we've a couple of us have got Højbjerg who normally plays but had an illness. So it's not necessarily a problem for us. I just think if people are going to go down that strategy, you just need to make sure that at the very least the guys you've got on your bench are playing, because every now and then it's going to bite you, and it might just end up with a really awful game week. So I don't know, just worth just having a backstop, I suppose.
Joe, you're the biggest dullard that's ever played this game. You're not going to be players who you think are going to score off the bench. I just don't believe it.
This season already, in my dullard ways, I got Trippier in, knowing full well that he's a perma rotation risk. I got Pedro in for that, and I got Bernardo Silva in, all fully aware of their rotation risk. And I'm really annoyed that
you're evolving and adapting.
I'm evolving. I'm evolving before your very eyes. I'm turning into a new alien breed.
I can't even see you, to be honest. All I can just see is the word fantasy football scout.
Yeah, that's what I've become. I've just simply become I've become text on a conference call.
In the Matrix, just
on a Matrix.
You might not even be the real. Like, who are you and what have you done with the real John T? That's what they'll all say.
He's gone.
But
I do accept Az's point, though, that I am a dull manager, and there was one, and some as I was looking through some of these things, I remember when I had my terrible season, and I started doing things like this. I see, if I was like I was there, like 1 millionth in the world, I'd be starting to look at players like Martial much more. And I remember around that time I was going for Giroud. I went for Giroud, and I knew he wasn't nailed, but he wasn't delivering. But these guys are delivering, and they're delivering on limited minutes, and they're getting starts, and people who are taking those maverick risks to get them in. And I think what will happen more with the Meet the Manager series, we're going to start getting some Mavericks on as well. And that will show that you can do well by making those very bold moves to take some risk. But let's move on in detail to Game Week 11. And as a bit of looking at some differentials and clean sheets. So do you want to take that away? How we've been doing and ask us who we're going for?
Yes, I need to open up my sheet because I don't have it open. But I don't think we all did that well again. which is
I think I did alright.
Which is nothing new, did you? Oh, maybe I just didn't do very well. Okay, let's start with differentials. So I didn't do very well. I went for Izquierdo last week of Brighton. I should have gone with Barkley. I mean, I put him in my scout squad article. I don't know why I went with Izquierdo.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. That's what they say about you.
So that means, I know they do. So my running total, I'm on 17, which is pretty rubbish. I think it's the lowest of all of us. 2 successful picks, 4 wrong picks, 33% success rate, not great. So this week I'm going to go with the player that we've been mentioning all this time, which is Isaac Success.
Well, hey.
Because we've been talking about him. Why not bring him in? I might be bringing him into my own team. I'm not going to tell you why, because I've already told you why I think he's quite a good pick. So he's going to be my one this week. David, you did do well last week. Actually, no, you both did well last week.
Yes, we did. Yeah, I did think me and Joe had done well. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Joe. David, you went for Brooks. He got 8 points. It was a good pick. That brings you 28 points overall, with the same amount of right picks as me. So we've both got 2 picks, but yours have basically done a lot better. Who are you going for this week?
I should just say I do feel it's a bit unfair that I went for a Bournemouth play. I do feel like that's a cheat code going for anyone playing against Fulham. But I could have done the same this week, but it's Huddersfield, so absolutely no way.
Probably wise.
Yeah. So I'm actually going for the same team as you. I'm going for his foil in this new look Watford, which is Gerard Deulofeu, and I think I pronounced that correctly. He's just looked really great last couple of weeks. I'm a massive fan of that goal he scored the most recent game. I thought was fantastic. But stats wise, been doing all right as well. I mean, he's kind of a bit like Barkley in that he hasn't actually started a huge amount because he's only really just come back, and I think it's 2 starts and 2 sub appearances last 4. But the reason I picked him is because in doing the article on Barkley, he was one of the people I chucked in my little comparison, and overall he came out as the 3rd best from that sort of 10 load of people in that kind of area. So he's top for successful passes in the final third amongst all of those people, 3rd for goal attempts in the box, and he's kind of playing up front. We're not really sure, but he's basically looking at the team sheet. He's kind of playing, I think, as a number 10. When you look at the heat map, average positions of the game, his average position has been closer to the goal.
Success is quite far back, isn't he? Surprisingly.
So Deulofeu looks like the kind of almost like a false 9, so kind of out of position. I don't know if he's out of position. I don't know because he's not officially the forward, but can't lie with where his feet are falling. So yeah.
How much is he? Is he like 5.5, something like that?
He's 5.4, and he's in 0.6% of teams.
It's good. It's a good price. Good price.
And the manager's been talking him up as well, so he does like him.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good one. So, Joe, you went for Duffy last week as part of your Brighton double up with the clean sheet. That's good.
I was putting my dullard credentials. You mocked me for going for a centre back.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, you go for a centre back, Joe.
Yeah, I said,
well,
yes.
You were convinced it was going to be 0-0, didn't you?
No, Duffy the Diffy.
Oh, that would have been amazing if it was.
I can't believe we won that.
Neither can I. It's just one shot on target.
That's the magic of Duffy.
I know. So, Joe, you're on 28. So you're on the same as David overall for this season. We've all had 2 successes and 4 failures. So again, you've had 1 massive score from Sterling.
Well, you've got 3 successes now, right?
No, I've got 2.
Well, you picked him this week.
Oh,
there we go.
You fell right into that.
I didn't. I should have seen that coming. Oh dear. Moving swiftly on. Joe, who have you gone for this week?
Well, I've gone for Ross Barkley for 2 reasons. I think he's a good differential, still very low owned. But also because it's nice and easy because we've covered him on all his stats, so I don't have to say why because we've explained it all. So it's nice and lazy.
Nice when it happens, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so clean sheets.
We should just say Luke's gone for Callum Patterson. Yeah. And I can sort of half make his case here. He's I think it's 2 goals last 3, and he's a midfielder, and he is actually playing as the centre forward in that team. So he hasn't actually told me what his argument is, but I'm guessing that's what it was. So I should just mention that.
He had Takure last week who blanked. So yeah, he's on 0, but he's only had 1 pick. Okay, so clean sheets. So I can't remember who's I think I had the first pick of this lot. So I went for it was Luke. Sorry, it was Luke who had the first pick this week. So he's gone for Man City. Obviously they're at home to Southampton. Southampton can't score, especially if Austin and Ings play up front, as we established. So yeah, I think he's pretty safe for that. I had second pick, so I've gone for Chelsea. At home to Crystal Palace. Just seems like a bit of a banker, really. Palace, they got 2 goals against Arsenal, which I was quite surprised at, but they've really struggled to score sort of before that game. So I don't think they're going to get much joy against Chelsea, Crystal Palace in that game. I'm doing pretty well with clean sheets this year. I've got 5 out of 6 right, 83% success rate. Let's keep it going. David, who have you gone for?
So I'm doubling up as well. I've gone with Watford this week. I think I went last, so a lot of the normal stuff that I would have picked, I couldn't. And normally I'd go for Liverpool, but just that Arsenal game, I don't know, tough to call. So I'm not too sure. Watford obviously away at Newcastle, who are another team that struggling to find the net, and only 5 teams have allowed fewer big chances in the last 4 matches than Watford, and they all have quite tough fixtures largely, or have already been picked. So,
yeah,
Watford.
Nice, 67% success for you so far this season.
Nice.
It's not bad. And Joe, you had Wolves. Oh, you went for Wolves. You didn't go for Brighton.
No.
Oh, yeah, he was hedging his bets, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was hedgy.
Because you went for 0-0. No, nearly gave you some extra points there. Oh, that was a really brave call. You really did think of 0-0, didn't you?
I did. I just thought it would be 0-0. and to be fair, it almost was 0-0.
Yeah, I know, that's very true. So you didn't get the clean sheet there. You're on, same as David, 6-7%. So I mean, pretty decent. 4 successes, two wrong. Who have you gone for this week?
Well, this is in tribute to all the Everton fans that I annoyed last season. But they were awful last season, and they're really good this season. So I'm going for Everton clean sheet against my club Brighton, and the reason is
2 weeks in a row. You've backed your.
I know. It just so happens it's worked out that way.
Traitor.
But one of the reasons. So I looked at team stats attacking all away matches, and Brighton have had the fewest shots of any team away from home, just 36. So the next one's Newcastle with 40. I mean, it's a whole list of awful teams: Cardiff, Watford. So Brighton are worse than Cardiff in terms of trying to shoot on the road. So that's it. And then I had a look at the teams defending all home matches as well, and goal attempts conceded. You got Liverpool and Man City on 27, so they're the best. And then you got Everton next up. I mean, there's a big gap there. They're about they're 46, but they're just behind those two giants of the home defence. So perfect combination, I think, for an Everton clean sheet. Well done, Pickford fans. You're in for another haul, I say.
Yeah, since I sold him, he's been doing really well. It's been a great season, this. Cool. So should we move on to weekend preview then? What you guys thinking of doing with your team? David, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah. I got the 2 free transfers, so in a bit of a luxurious position, I suppose. I feel more. Last week, some people who watched the breakfast show that we did will know that I did not like having 2 free transfers last week. I didn't really know what to do. This week, there's loads. I have more of an idea of what I could do. It's just a case of what I actually do. And I think most likely, as I kind of already said, I think the way it is at the moment, Mitrovic to success, Yedlin to Mendy, although I haven't actually calculated that I can do that. I think I can. And then I might go for the -4 and move one of either Maddison or Fraser to Barkley, because I'm quite liking the look of this Ross Barkley fad that seems to be. I'm going to go and get, as Joel said, I might even go get myself a Ross Barkley t-shirt. We'll see. But yeah, I'm probably almost definitely going to be using my 2 free transfers. I think I've been holding them for a while, waiting for the template to kind of buckle, maybe show signs of shifting. I think I can see that now. So I think now's the time to get ahead of the curve and try and get a few extra steps ahead of people who, are feeling in a similar boat to me. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty jealous of you.
Who are you captaining, David?
Oh, sorry. Captain probably going to be Aguero. But if Hazard's fit, and if we find he's fit, then I don't know. He's gonna be staring at me and asking me to captain him. So probably Aguero. I've become more dullard this year, so I probably will go with Aguero. But I don't know. Hazard at the back of my mind. We'll see.
Yeah. Joe, do you want to go next?
Yeah. So I've got just one transfer. I've got just enough money as I speak to do Trent Alexander-Arnold to Mendy, just like that, which seems a sensible move.
I hate you.
Just like that. Don't have to worry about it. But Mendy looks like he might go up in price tonight or tomorrow. So I'm going to have to do that move quick. Laporte tempts me, and I'm not sure whether this is my Sky Manager brain kicking in, because Laporte is a legend in that game. He is the Mo Salah of last year, of this year in Sky. He's incredible. And I think Laporte, there was comments about Laporte about being pretty much nailed on until we get to Christmas. These were the comments because Pep Guardiola was saying, why is he the first name on the team sheet? He was explaining why. We've seen the stats, the passing, and the tackling. He's just completely integral. He's the Ottoman Mendy. He's that guy that does everything, makes them all tick. And I like the sound of that, and he's cheaper, so I could do, obviously, that. And I've got to think about game week 12. I want Arnautovic this week. I don't think I'm going to get Arnautovic and Mendy. I prefer Mendy this week, and I want to get Arnautovic eventually. So I'm willing to take a hit. So I might wait and do Ings to success, and even play success this week, because it's a tough week for my team. But yeah, there's lots of things. Arnautovic and Mendy I want, basically, in a nutshell. And Mendy's the one I particularly want. And captain Aguero, I'm just going back to my Salah, Aguero, home away stuff, because they just deliver. I'm a bit worried that Hazard coming back from injury, he might start, but he might get only get 60, 70 minutes as Aguero does, but we know what Aguero can do. But yeah, what about you, Az?
Well, I'm annoyed because I used my wild card a few weeks ago when I probably shouldn't have done. I think I really did waste that. I used it to try and get ahead of the curve, and like I feel with my transfers, I'm looking at trying to get Mendy in. The only way I can get him in is with a hit, which automatically puts me at a disadvantage on you two because you can both get him for free. So it's like I'm going to be probably making the same. You know, if you're both considering getting success in and Mendy, I'm going to have to do that for a hit, which is a bit of a nightmare, really. But yeah, I mean, I'm between. I could do Maddison, I think, out for Brooks, and then do Johnny to Mendy, or I could do Mitrovic to Success and Johnny to Mendy. So it's one, you know, because they're both the same price. They're both 6.7 Maddison and Mitrovic. So I've got to lose one of them if I want Mendy. I don't really want to lose Richarlison because I still think he offers quite a lot. You know, I think Everton are improving and he's gonna carry on doing well. I'm just not sure about Leicester.
It sounds with that fixture with Man City at home to Southampton, because Southampton are just awful attack. At the moment. I
mean, I'd be captaining Mendy.
Yeah, you'd be captaining him.
Yeah. I mean, he's just there's no way Southampton are going to score in that game.
I suppose, yeah. Southampton have just got to get a clean sheet, and he could match Aguero just off not even scoring. With
Aguero playing 60 minutes, they've got the derby the week after, they've got the Champions League. If ever there was a game for Aguero to be taken off early, it's this game against Southampton. There's lots of talk about Mendy being rotated because he had a pretty poor game and all that, but
that pitch was terrible. I think everybody had a bad game.
Everyone had a bad game, and he's not going to get banned for his weird swing that he did. I think he's going to be fine. I think they need him, and I think he'll be he'll be let off the leash a bit against Southampton. I think he's going to. I'm looking at players who we're deeming kind of essential, and I think Mendy, in a team that's like 8 clean sheets in 10 or something, and they're just keeping clean sheets all the time. He is one of the most attacking defenders in the league. I think he is as close to essential as it gets with a player. He just offers everything you could want.
I mean, I think with Mendy, Robertson, Alonso, and Trippier, I'm going to put him in that, and Doherty. I think you've got so many great options in defence, and that so-called ram of Robertson, Alonso, Mendy is quite strong. I mean, I was a bit against Alonso last week. Not that, I was just thinking if you were wildcarding, maybe save a bit of money. Alonso's not offering more, and then he goes obviously and gets attacking return and bonus and the full spread of points there with a double-digit return. Like just timing really to kind of hold me back. I'm still keeping an eye on that situation though, but I think with my dabbles with the Liverpool defence, Robertson is the one I want, and Man City Mendy is the one I want, and with Chelsea Alonso is the one. I just think it just looks good. It makes me feel secure. It's nice to look at. But before we go,
do everything you want. They do everything you want.
Yeah, that's it. But before we go, I just wanted to mention a bloke called Dan McKenna, who will be listening to this or watching this his lunch break on Wednesday. He listens every Wednesday on his lunch break. He wrote us a lovely email about how he listens to the podcast, and it's always nice to where are people going to be. So we've got 1,000 or so watching the live stream now, and it's just nice to think that. So thank you for the lovely message, Dan McKenna, and good luck with your game week. And Dave and Az, good luck with yours. But for now, it's a goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Good night.
Good night, all.